KPLC TV7 presents Mardi Gras Magic with your hosts Ted Wren and Jan Hardy. Mardi Gras Magic, a look at the many things that make Mardi Gras such a colorful and exciting festival.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Jan Hardy.
And I'm Ted Wren. During the next half hour, we're going to bring you some of the sights and the sounds of Mardi Gras here in Southwest Louisiana. And as you can tell, we're using the Creux de la Famille's ball as our backdrop tonight.
Ted, that's one of my favorite balls. We're going to take you behind the scenes with the set builders and the costume designers, and we'll show you how Mardi Gras traditions have evolved right here in Southwest Louisiana over the years.
Something else you're going to like, we're going to take a look at the children's Mardi Gras here in Southwest Louisiana and tell you what's on tap for tomorrow on Fat Tuesday. We'll have a rundown for you.
You know, for many years, Mardi Gras was limited to crew members only. The general public had this kind of left out feeling. But Mardi Gras of Imperial Calcasieu Incorporated was formed, and it was designed to get the public involved. It united a lot of crews into Mardi Gras Incorporated.
And got the public involved.
That's right.
You know, we have not only the public, this thing is involved from a single parade to a 6-week extravaganza. There's a 12th night celebration, a royal gala, and even a Miss Mardi Gras pageant.
That's right, Ted. Carnival has evolved into a major celebration in Southwest Louisiana, and everyone wants to participate.
And earlier tonight, we had a chance to visit with the captain of this particular crew. She is Anne Molazon.
And anyone who knows Anne Molazon knows that Anne Molazon has been instrumental in making Mardi Gras in Southwest Louisiana what it is today.
Let's see what she has to say. I know Mardi Gras is always exciting for you. Why do you think it is so great?
Well, I think that's because it's in my blood, actually. I had a cousin that was the Queen of Comus and one of Rex, and I just guess it's just part of me. It's meant to be.
In the blood.
It's in my blood, I'm afraid so.
And now a lot of weeks have gone into this, and normally you are an absolute nervous wreck tonight. You seem so calm. Everything is beautiful. I've been through looking at the sights. How do you feel tonight?
Oh, I think everything's going great. For once this year, I got sleep. I found that I can't stay up to 3 and 4 every morning working. And I had delegated a lot of work out. There have been hundreds of people working on this ball.
Now, Mardi Gras season lasts considerable length of time. A moment ago, you mentioned that you got some rest. You were up 3 or 4 hours. Every time you get a little bit of sleep, you get up and you keep going. It's pretty grueling for a captain of a crew, isn't it?
Well, some people look at it that way. If you enjoy Mardi Gras and you enjoy the work you do, then it really isn't. It is a lot of work, and I put in many happy hours, and it's so rewarding at the end to see it all come together. But there are tons of hours that go into it. In fact, I'm started now on next year's 10th show.
I see you've got something around your neck that can signal the start of tonight's show. I'm going to ask you to use it.
Oh, I will happily, as in tradition, the blowing of the captain's whistle, and the show begins.
Thank you.
The tradition of eating slices of king's cake and throwing clothes during Mardi Gras dates back hundreds of years.
You know, the traditions evolve each year, and Phil Smith's going to give us a new twist on an old theme.
If to give is better than to receive at Christmas time, then perhaps to throw is better than to catch during Mardi Gras. This wild hurling tradition began more than 130 years ago on the streets of New Orleans.
12th Night Revelers in New Orleans was the first one that actually threw throws, and it was Santa Claus atop of float number 24, and he started throwing goodies, and it caught on so quick that now it's a very integral part of Mardi Gras.
Now stores cash in on millions of dollars in sales of rainbow-colored beads, plastic pearls, and more.
Last year, the big thing, too, was the one-size-fits-all panties. They fight over anything. It's grown men and women will fight almost for the things that they wouldn't give you 2 cents for in June.
Since we have 15 seconds, I'd like to show you some of the things they'll be throwing this year besides beads. How about soft frisbees, giant pacifiers, unicorns, soft balls, soft flowers, cups, lots of footballs, panties, balls with bells, plastic frogs, crawfish, eggs, eggs, and Super Balls. With all this pitching and catching, Mardi Gras revelers work up quite an appetite. You'll see lots of king cakes around this time of year, which is another old tradition. The cake was to honor the 3 wise men who visited the Christ child. Pastry expert Rodney P. Mariano creates hundreds of the cakes this time of year, adding his own artistic flavor to an old favorite. First, a slightly sweet bread dough is worked to a desired thickness. Then a special filling is added.
This is almond paste with butter. It's ground up almonds and sugar and what's called bitter almond, which is a particular type of almond that has very, very intense flavor. Now, this is not traditional. Traditional is generally either a plain bread or a cinnamon bread.
The almond filling, along with chopped almonds, adds a unique flavor to this king's cake.
In New Orleans, they're generally pretty plain. And I think that things should not only look good, they should taste good.
To make it look good, Rodney braids 3 lengths of dough into a circular cake.
We make it in a ring, but traditionally in New Orleans, king's cake is a large oval, tall, crown-shaped for the king. The circle or the oval is just to show unity. The cake actually comes from about the 4th century, Little Christmas or King's Day. So they would make the cake to celebrate Little Christmas and hide the baby. Whoever found the baby would be the king for the week, king for the time until the next celebration. Well, the whole idea is that it's supposed to be a surprise. So whoever gets it, as long as they don't swallow it, they're king or queen for the week, and they're obligated to bring the next cake.
Rodney feels some folks may have missed their opportunity to bring the next king's cake.
I'm sure there have been people who swallowed that little baby.
King's cake and throws, just part of what makes this a magical time of the year, especially for crawfish-toting fellas like Jordan and Jarrett Langley. They just can't wait for tomorrow's parade when everyone feels like a kid again.
The 4 greatest words that throw me something, mister.
And now I throw it back to you, Mr. Wren and Miss Hardy.
We're going to take a short break right now.
And when we come back, we'll show you how some of these fabulous sets for tonight's Mardi Gras were made.
Stay tuned for more of Mardi Gras Magic.
You can see a lot of work goes into the set design for these Mardi Gras balls.
Days, weeks, even months of preparation. And Glenn Wagner's going to show us how all that time spent pays off.
And now, ladies and gentlemen, the time has arrived. All guests, please rise and greet the arrival of His Royal Majesty, King for me tonight, Mr. Thomas Juvernella.
It's usually the elaborate costumes that steal the show at the annual Mardi Gras balls. The sets that make up the backdrop often are lost in the pageantry. But the construction and artwork that goes into the sets can be the most time-consuming task of a Mardi Gras ball. These designers from Duflo Florist are working on the set at the entrance of the ball. It's not even part of the show, and the guests will only see the set as they walk to their seats. But still, the construction begins a week before the ball.
It takes several days to create the structure. It takes a lot of labor and hours to put on this effect, to create this. Most of it's done in the shop before we come in with the actual pieces, and then we make it fit in the area we're using.
Palm trees will surround the entrance. The group saves time by constructing them at their shop to bring intact the day before the ball. Inside, faces are being shaped. Later, they'll become part of the trees. And now it's the day before the event, and the task of putting up the set begins. The cave and surrounding palm trees support the ball's theme, the seasons of the year. Looking at their raw materials, it's easy to see that turning chicken wire and paper into an inviting grotto is definitely an art.
The first thing we did was work with the wire frames and wood frames for the structures that will hold the ceilings up and the branches up and the tree forms and that kind of thing. We begin with the form of wire, and then we use PVC pipe and wood forms to create the limbs, and it's covered with the brown paper that's been painted. And then after that's applied, we go over with several other colors to create more depth and highlights on the bark.
It is an art, but it's also hard work, and this crew is looking at deadline pressure. In a little over 24 hours, the guests will be arriving, and although the entrance looks a little bare, come showtime, it will be ready. They've transformed a cold, concrete arena entrance into a gateway to fun and fantasy. The guests look from side to side as they make their way through the cave. A surprise or two waits around every corner. Many never notice that they're being watched. It's a lot of work by a lot of people, but they wouldn't trade it for anything.
We really do enjoy it. We really do. As you can tell, it wouldn't come out so well, I don't think, if we wouldn't enjoy it.
And as the show goes on, plans for next year are already in the works. And now back to Jan and Ted.
We're going to take a short break now, but when we come back...
Kim Keeler's going to show us what the well-dressed Mardi Gras revelers are wearing this year. Stay tuned. Hours of work, intense concentration on intricate detail. Thousands of dollars spent on something only used one time. There are no limits when it comes to a costume for Mardi Gras.
Literally my kind of event, and each costume is a work of art. Kim Keeler takes a look at what goes into designing these costumes and why one goes all out for a one-night celebration.
It's like a fairy tale. I mean, everyone looks and feels beautiful, you know, and it's just something that you can't explain. You have to be there to experience it.
Doesn't she look beautiful?
Linnell Aguilar gets a taste of what it's like to be royalty as the queen of the children's crew of Adonis.
My last year was last year to run, because you can only be 16 to run. And last year was my last year, and I won. So I'll always be presented back as past royalty, whereas if I wouldn't have won, I'd be nothing. It's said that your costume doesn't influence the judges, but it counts in your overall appearance. So if your costume's gorgeous, they're going to look at you.
People spend thousands of dollars on Mardi Gras costumes, and most of those, like Linnell's, will only be used once.
This gown, crown, mask, and all would probably go for about $4,000, and it should, considering all of the hours of labor that went into it.
A Lake Charles costume designer says there are few limits on purse strings when people come in her door with their dream gown in mind.
It depends on what you put into a costume. You can make a costume, a simple costume with a little bit of trim for around $100. But you can go up to $3,000, $4,000. You have the ones that say go all out, and you have the ones that want to keep it down to a certain amount. I'm budgeting this. I can only do so much. And then you get these that I'm only budgeting, and then when you start seeing the costume, you start seeing the trims. Put a little bit more here and put a little bit more here. So it depends on the person's personality.
She says hours of work go into each gown until it's everything the customer dreams of.
We pin stuff on, and they, you know, we say, well, if you don't like this, we'll take this away. And we put something else until something brings that grin on that face and that twinkle in that eye, and you know that's the way you need to go. It's an art, it's creativity, it's imagination. You've got to have an imagination, and you just have to be able to look at something and change it in your mind and make it into something pretty and gaudy, Mardi Gras is gaudy, you know. The gaudier you look up close, the better you look from a distance.
But why? Why all of this time, effort, and money into a costume that will only be stuck in a closet next week?
It's a time to escape reality. It's a time to be somebody that you've always wanted to be. It's a time to wear the big, full antebellum skirts and to be able to kind of feel what they felt like back then in the full skirts and the femininity, and the guys are dressed up in their tux and their tunics and glitter and shine. And people just enjoy getting away from it.
A lot of people think we're stupid for spending that much money and then going through all this because, see, this is speaking as a teenager, but I've stayed home for the last 3 weeks. You know, I haven't gone out, done anything, just working on my costume. And it takes a lot of time, but to me, it's worth it. Really, Mardi Gras and pageants are my whole life, so it's worth it.
And so the parade of glamorous costumes in all their glitter and romance goes on. Kim Keeler, 7 News.
Well, if it can be said that Mardi Gras is a time when grown-ups act like kids, what are the kids acting like?
Alan Toomey tells us the kids are having Mardi Gras too.
For a look at how kids celebrate Mardi Gras, we brought in an expert correspondent.
Kids do the same thing in Mardi Gras like everybody else does. We have a blast. Kids at Episcopal Day School start getting ready for this parade 10 days early. Transportation. Then the parade begins. Royalty from the upper grades look on. The most spectacular kids' Mardi Gras event is the annual crew of Adonis pageant. is Stephen Thibodeau. Queen Venus VII, Linnell Aquilard.
The Crew of Adonis in Lake Charles was formed in 1981, and they had their first pageant ball in 1982. And I guess the children's pageant ball differs from the adult cruise events in that it is a pageant performance on stage in lieu of a party of some kind, although most of the adult crews have some type of presentation, as we do. I really wasn't involved at the inception, but the idea that Mardi Gras was growing in popularity in the Lake Charles area, and the parents of children who had children in the Crew of Oberon and Lafayette wanted to have something locally, and the idea caught on quite quickly. The older children are involved in competition for the court positions, so it gives them some insight into that aspect of future life and whatever. And we have several parties all throughout the year, so there are also several social events that it's a good social organization as well as just something that happens once a year. I enjoy participating in events that my children are involved in, and obviously all the other parents are the same way. And they put as much into it, as you can tell from the decorations, as the children do with the performances. And the costumes are quite elaborate too, and they take quite a bit of time to make.
Of Mardi Gras yet to come is in good hands. I'm Chris Toomey. Back to Ted and Jan.
We're going to take another short break here.
But when we come back, we're going to take a look at some of the festivities that are planned for Fat Tuesday, and that's tomorrow.
Including the big Crew of Cruise Parade. We've seen the pageantry of Mardi Gras tonight, but the fun and festivities culminate tomorrow, Fat Tuesday.
That's right, I can hardly wait. And joining us tonight is the captain of Crew de la Vendée, George Barbier, to kind of fill us in on what we can expect. How does today begin?
Well, the first thing they have starting about 10 o'clock is the Cajun Run. And that's when they get on horseback and go around town, the south part of town, and they end that with the gumbo. And where they wind up, you never know. And then they, following that, they have the children's parade about 3:30, where the children of a lot of the crews and other entries are able to parade. And then they have the Crew of Cruise Parade, which is only the Mardi Gras cruise, and there's about over 60 entrances.
Wow. Now that starts at 6:30, and we'll be covering that live for all of you in our viewing audience.
We'll be broadcasting from Ryan Street and showing you all the pageantry of that particular event. You know, one thing that strikes me is that we have two parades in one day, and it's all going on Ryan Street there, downtown, the south part of town.
But fabulous costumes at that 6:30 parade. Gosh, what we saw last year was unbelievable, and even more spectacular this year.
Yeah, you'll be able to see all the costumes from all the crews, and the parade follows the same route, both parades, where you can go out early, have a picnic, stay in Ryan Street, and watch both parades go by.
Start somewhere around McNeese and ends up at the Civic Center.
So just pick your spot wherever you want to be. Good viewing almost all the way along the route. George, good talking to you. We'll see you tomorrow evening in the parade.
Oh, I'll
as
be there.
captain of both.
Can't wait to see it. This is going to be fun.
And it's been a wonderful evening here. We want to thank, of course, the Crew de la Famille for letting us invade their ball tonight.
And thanks to all the crews for making this such a wonderful Mardi Gras season in Southwest Louisiana. We hope that all of you in our viewing audience have enjoyed it as much as we have in bringing it to you.
Thanks for being with us, and happy Mardi Gras.